Alright. Hello, inner tubes. We're doing a little bit of adventure biking today, and speaking of adventure bikes, oh yeah, that's what they're made for right here. Little stand-up action, little bumpy road action. Let's talk about the Honda Africa Twin. I rode one recently. Am I going to be trading in my Moto Guzzi Stelvio for an Africa Twin? I'll tell you all about it right now. So cue the intro. This is an automatic. There we go in gear. Ooh, there it goes. Yeah. Now let's see. Let's switch modes to sport. Alright, we're in sport mode. And we will see what this Africa Twin is all about. Africa Twin DCT. It's a nice tall bike, commanding view of the road. I've never ridden an automatic bike, so this is going to be, I'm a guinea pig. There is no shift lever. It's freaking weird. You give it a little twist and it just chugs forward a little bit. The dash is nice. It's got a visor on it, just like the CB650R. That is not a clutch, that is a parking brake that you see there. Comes on, you flick it up, and it comes on. I guess it can't come on when the bike's in gear. But the bike does not roll by itself in gear. It sits there as if it's neutral. Oh, weird. Alright, so sport mode shifts a little later, so you're revving out a little bit more. Already I'm struggling with... Now, this should be simpler, but for someone who's... just shifted. For someone who's ridden manual bikes his whole life, I just went for the clutch. This is really confusing. Sounds nice. Does have engine braking in automatic mode, so when you roll off the throttle, whoops, blinker. I guess it doesn't have self-canceling blinkers. When you roll off the throttle, it does slow down. It's nice sitting here with at a stoplight with no clutch and nothing to worry about. You don't have to worry about putting it in gear. Now, most people like this setup for riding off-road because you can't stall this thing. Oh, it's tall. The dash is super visible. It's not a super powerful bike. I'm just going to twist it, move it up a little bit. Okay. It's not a super powerful bike. It's got 94 horsepower, but that's plenty. 1000 cc's, 998, I believe. Parallel twin. Sounds nice. It's got a 270-degree crank, so it sounds like a V-twin. Super weird. Now you can shift on your own with these little kind of paddle type shifters on the left hand. There are some paddle shifters. You got an index finger shifter to shift up, and you've got a thumb shifter to shift down. The weather protection is decent, not as big as some bikes in the class. It depends what you consider the class, because this is sort of in between the big tours and the middleweight tours. You could say this competes with the 850 GS, and you could say it competes with the 1250 GS. Yeah, it's kind of cool. But I prefer shifting myself. I mean, the only reason I would ever get this, and if I got this bike, I'd probably just get the standard. But maybe if I did a lot of off-road stuff and a lot of hills, like steep hills and stuff you could stall out on, then maybe I'd get this bike, because it'll just chug up anything. But yeah, I think I am a big fan of shifting. I prefer manual cars too. Unfortunately, there aren't that many of them around. So, as with any Honda, this bike exudes quality. The tolerances seem really tight. Everything is very well put together. Everything just works on a Honda. Can you stand on this bike? Well, let's try. Cops around. Avoid those stunt riding charges. Yeah, you can stand pretty well. And the automatic makes it easier. You don't have to worry about a clutch, so it's actually better for standing. Oh, now I'm feeling some heat. There's definitely some heat. There are a couple of big radiators under the front of this bike, and I feel that hot air hitting my legs right now. Now, on a cold day, that would be fantastic. But on a hot day, not so much. This is a medium day, so I don't mind it too much. It's not too bad. It's a little wobbly in a turn. A little wobbly. It sounds good, but these long sweepers, oh, I don't like saying negative things, but it's definitely, you trade off something for a 21-inch front wheel. And the thing is, yeah, trade off a little bit of road manners for better off-road manners. Thing is, though, the KTMs don't necessarily have those same characteristics, so I don't know. It's a little wobbly. It's a little noodly. The suspension is definitely soft. It's not as planted as the Super Adventures, the Multistrada. Then again, the Multistrada is way worse off-road. Well, under braking, it pitches forward. Well, that's shifted in the middle of a turn, which you're not supposed to do. But it did, and it didn't upset the bike at all. So that's fine. Boy, I tell you, I'm getting used to this sitting in traffic, because it's trafficy as hell out here, and I'm getting used to sitting here without worrying about the clutch. This bike is starting to spoil me. Automatic bikes. What will they think of next? telephones without cords? I don't know if I'd keep the regular seat. My butt seems to be something weird going on back there. There seems to be a step in the saddle that I'm right on the edge of. I don't know if it's meant for someone shorter than I am. I'm not that tall. I'm 5'11 and a half. I can put my feet down flat. It's a narrow bike. I wish we could take it off-road. Unfortunately, that's not in the cards for today. But from what I hear about this bike, it is very easy to ride off-road. If you're a beginner and you want the bike you can go fastest on off-road, then this will be it. This will go faster for an amateur, especially with the automatic, especially with not worrying about stalling, shifting, or any of that other stuff. You can stand on the pegs, look down the road, and the bike will chug along on its own. And here we go, leaning, leaning, leaning. That was fine, but that's a bit slower. Push steer on the other side. That was fine. Alright, inner tubes. So, the Africa Twin. Let's talk about the good and the bad. Ah, nice road. So, first the good. It looks great. You might only be going to your local Starbucks, but this thing looks like you should be riding the desert sands of Morocco when you're out on it. It looks the business. Honda has really done a good job of styling their bikes recently. A lot of their bikes, and I've reviewed a lot of them, a lot of their bikes are really nicely styled. Very well done, Honda. The other thing Honda has done well with older bikes, it seems, somehow they're making their stock exhaust sound really good, like really low down, kind of a bass growl to the exhaust. They're not very loud, but they certainly are mean sounding. And the Africa Twin is no different. There's a lot of sand on this road, little patches of sand, so you got to watch out. Fit and finish is great, typical Honda. It looks and feels like a premium bike, absolutely. The other good thing is it's a Honda, so it's going to be reliable. It goes without saying. And it's got a huge dealer network, which definitely helps in choosing bikes, because if you're in the middle of nowhere and your bike breaks down, or you break something, you need to replace it, you're more likely to find a Honda dealer than a KTM dealer or a BMW dealer. That's just the case. All right, are there any bad aspects of this particular bike? Well, let's talk about that handling, because granted, most people won't be having the bike heeled over at the speeds I had it heeled over, but when I was taking turns at high speed, I did find that the front end wanders around way more than it should, and way more than its competition. Some people might blame the 21-inch front wheel, but I don't think so, because there are several KTMs that have 21-inch front wheels and don't do that. The 1290 and the 1090R both come to mind. And those bikes also come with more off-road centered tires, and yet somehow they manage to keep their line in a fast sweeper. I'm not talking about roads like this where the turns are tight. I'm talking about a fast sweeper at high speed. There does tend to be a little bit of a wobble, and it does tend to fall in rather quickly and alarmingly if you're used to a 19-inch front wheel like I'm riding right now in this Moto Guzzi Stelvio. So on-road handling, especially fast kind of sweeping roads, the handling leaves a little bit to be desired. Whoa, grouse. Nice. They don't fly very well, those suckers. Better get running. Anyways, so having said that, people will say, well, it's an adventure bike. Why do we? It's not a sport bike. It shouldn't need to handle like one, which could be a true statement if the competition didn't handle like sport bikes. Right? The problem for Honda with the handling is you've got a KTM 1090R, Adventure R, that can do those fast sweepers and not have that kind of weaving motion. And it does everything else just as well, if not maybe a little bit better than the Honda, and it's more powerful and a bit lighter. So here we go. When you're making a choice to ride an adventure bike, and you've got a choice between the 1090R and the Africa Twin, it comes down to this. The 1090R is probably a little bit better in expert hands. When you're riding it hard off-road and when you're riding it fast on-road, it probably handles a little bit better. The Honda suspension is probably a bit softer, which might make it a bit more comfortable, but also makes the handling a little bit less buttoned down. Now, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, no one would have complained. But nowadays, the competition is so tight in this segment that you've got, you know, buyers expect the bike to do everything well. They expect it to be able to do a track day, and they expect it to be able to do a single track in the woods, and to travel across the continent. Now, I would not do a track day on the Africa Twin. Okay, just the turn in is a little bit, you know, your sphincter clenches a little bit more than it should when the bike starts to weave a little bit like that in the corner. And I'm talking about the kind of speeds where most owners will never get to. So if you're the kind of guy who's gonna ride the Africa Twin at normal, legal speeds, then disregard everything I said, buy it, you're gonna be happy with it. But if you're going out and your friends are going out on their sport bikes and you're rocking the Africa Twin on a group ride, and you're expecting to keep up with them in some hard corners, you're going to be working hard. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to ride the tail of the dragon on that thing, you're going to be working. You might have to get some stiffer springs out front. So Africa Twin, a great all-around bike. If you're comparing it to a 1090, in some ways it does compare favorably. It probably looks a little bit better. It has a better dealer network. It's probably cheaper to maintain. It depends on what you're going to do with it. If mostly you're going to just tour with it and take on the occasional road, and you're more of a newbie on the off-road trails, the Africa Twin is perfect for you. If you're a hard-edged off-road rider, I take the KTM. And you're going to race around on the roads too. Even with that 21-inch front wheel, the KTM handles great on the road. Alright, so guys, thanks for watching. If you're going to yell at me about the front suspension, do it in the comments below. If you're going to yell at me about the DCT, do it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and most especially subscribe, because that's always appreciated. And stay tuned for more bike reviews and other videos. Going camping to Vermont soon, so look forward to that video coming out soon. Keep the rubber side down, shiny side up, and may the spokes be with you.